Hello, welcome to Intersection Chats. I am Reme Mancera. I am a personal brand story strategist. I am delighted to have here today to Becky Baker. Hello, Becky. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Reme. Great to be here. I'm also a personal brand strategist, although we each have our own style. I worked for 25 years in branding for high tech companies with my own company, so I can really relate to the women that you work with, the entrepreneurs. Um, and one thing that I saw time and time again was that there were so many brilliant women who stayed invisible
Hmm.
in their organizations. And it wasn't because they weren't super smart, really capable people, but it was just because they did not know how to find the words to make themselves stand out. And they also weren't consciously steering that process. That's what really pulled me into personal branding about 10 years ago, because I saw a lot of opportunities there. And something I really feel strongly about is that women are a really positive force of change in our world. And I really want to support that. And I know that when you can learn how to communicate your purpose and your value, that's how you can make the change that our world needs. And that's how you can influence other people, build trust with other people. And I know you probably share a lot of these same thoughts. So I'm so curious to talk to you about all of this today. And one thing that has really struck me in all of this is I don't think personal branding is really just about learning new skills. I think it really starts with mindset. That's something I've experienced in my work.
Nice. So yeah, let's start with the proper conversation because I am really looking forward to to share our points of views and see how has been for each of us working with clients. So yeah, based on your own experience, how do you think each of our expertise, specifically like personal brand story and mindset barriers, how they like intersect? How is that connection?
Well, they are completely connected. You cannot separate the two of them. And that's what I think is so fascinating because you can have a great story, but if your mindset blocks you and you don't have the confidence to share it, or you have all these little inner critics that are saying, in your head, then your story's never going to get told. It's so simple. And that's what I see in the personal branding work I do. And um, I know this firsthand because I have to say, when I thought about switching from I was a copywriter for big companies, and I thought, okay, I want to do coaching with women. That was really my passion. But I was so scared to do that because I had this little voice saying, no one's going to take you seriously. You've been sitting behind a little computer your whole life. You haven't been training people. Why would people work with you? And that mindset held me back for a long, long time until I realized, I really believe in growth and development. I know I evolve as a person. And so why can't I learn new skills? Why can't I adapt? If I have that desire. And my new mantra became, well, it's a skill I can learn. And I say that to myself just about every day when I get intimidated by something. I think, I can figure this out. It doesn't, I can change and I can adapt. And that's a really important thing that I've learned. And I really try to pass it on to the women that I work with too. And so I have sort of this framework that I use or that I've seen with the women I work with. And they kind of go through three stages,
Mhm.
which I think are super fascinating. And they are called the minion phase, which we love the minions, little yellow people that all look the same. They're called the mover phase, and then they're called the magnet phase. And I'm really curious to see what your experience might be from this point, your point of view. Because if I look at the minion phase, that's the first phase when people are just thinking about personal branding. And at that point, they're not really communicating about themselves in any particularly special way. They introduce themselves as a job title. I'm a
Mm.
personal brand strategist, or I'm a copywriter who writes newsletters. I'm a project manager, but that doesn't say anything about them. It doesn't say anything about what makes them special. And I'm curious what your experience is when with the women you work with when they first encounter personal branding. What are those mindset things that are going on with them?
Yeah, one of the main things will be like questioning if their story is relevant. Like, and this why I decided to name my podcast that name. I call it "Who Cares About My Story?" because that's a question that a lot of people that I have worked with, it's like, or people in my audience, they have that idea of, okay, how my story, my personal stories will be relevant for someone and for my business, by the way. And that's like the point where they
Yeah,
start like yeah, questioning themselves and how that will be relevant. And then the lack of confidence when you are sharing your story, if you are not doing because you are not certain about what is the reason and why you are doing that, you have that feeling of, yeah, I feel like everyone is telling me that I should share my story, but I don't know exactly how to do it. I am not sure it's going to be relevant. So you are doing that from this like space of not having the confidence and the clarity and the
yeah,
strategy to do
yeah,
so in a way that, yeah, makes sense for you, makes sense for your audience, makes sense for your business. So yeah, I feel like
yeah,
that part is like where you have these all these external messages about all the shoots, especially at the
yeah,
beginning of, even if you have been in corporate. I work a lot with people that they have been in corporate and then they are starting businesses. And even if you have a lot of experience in the doing the stuff that you know,
yeah,
is like moving to do that by your own business, and that there is a set of different mindsets, blocks there
yeah,
that you need to
yeah,
address. And
yeah,
I feel like running your own business is a great way to get to know yourself in a different level
yeah,
because you
yeah.
have a lot of progress to do as well.
Yeah, it's super interesting because I think we have so much overlap because a lot of the women I work with now are in working for companies and they're very highly educated women. But I also work with a few entrepreneurs. But the women in companies, I get this too, is that, well, I'm not important enough to have a personal brand. They think that, oh, the only people that should have personal brands are like the leaders of the company that have their own group around them to do it for them. But the other thing I get a lot, and this always amazes me, is, well, I don't know enough about my area. I'm not an expert. That's what they always say. I'm not an expert in my area. And I will be sitting there. Literally, this has happened to me. I was once in a group of women who were all working on hydrogen, they were all PhDs, super educated. They've been working for years, with different industries, and now they were working in academia, and they were working on one of the biggest projects in Germany to get hydrogen energy off the ground.
Okay.
And we sat in that room, and they said, "I'm not an expert at this. How can I?" And I thought, how could you say that? You've spent so much time and energy learning your field, and you get that a lot with women, though, that they have that imposter syndrome too, that they don't really know what they know, that
Yeah.
they, yeah,
Yeah, I believe that these are like something like having this, we as a personal brand, we need to project and have this authority from others. But I feel like that needs to start with our inner authority, like
yeah,
when you feel that you really know your stuff. And then it's the matter of, okay, how I communicate that. And of course, I love keep learning, so I am all about keep improving, keep learning. But that doesn't mean that your experience is not valid. And especially because each of us, we are a unique combination of our personality, our knowledge, our experience, our expertise, and our values. So there is this combination that makes us unique. No one else has the same life path that you have. And
yeah,
that brings a lot to the work that you do, because you are doing things in a way that is like you have a unique approach, and that will show. So how you can use storytelling and your story to introduce that, to illustrate that approach that you have. But when you have the clarity, sometimes what I see, Working with people that are pivoting, as I said, they are moving from one model to other. They are
Yeah. Yeah.
narrowing down the niche, introducing a new revenue stream. They need to introduce themselves in a different way now. It's like sometimes, especially if the pivot is like real different from what they were doing to the new thing, that process of understanding, exploring their journeys, helping them understand, okay, there is this common thread. Even if
Yeah.
what I am doing now is not the same that I did, there is things that are important to me. I want to work with a specific group of people because there are something that I get close to them. This
Yeah.
problem or this need that they have is important to me. That's important. And then it's like, okay, I know that this is important to me. How I use a piece from my story to highlight that like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I'm going back to the idea of the inner authority, and I would love to know your opinion as well on that. Through the process of understanding what pieces of your story you are going to share, it's also a way to validate to yourself your journey. And it's like, okay, it makes sense for me. And sometimes
Yeah.
even there are moments that are pivotal to their own journey, but they are not going to share. But going through that process of understanding every work experience that you have, the lessons that you get from there, even if
Yeah.
it's totally unrelated,
Yeah.
all that is like helping yourself to understand, yeah, it makes sense. I have all this knowledge and having this authority of, okay, I can in, present myself to the world because I have something to say. And maybe there are other people that
Yeah.
are also doing that. That's the beauty. The thing is that I am going to share from my point of view. And that's
Yeah.
something that is going to make each of us like is more enrichful, like is richer
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
each of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So
True.
yeah,
No, it's true. But I think, don't you think that's the process we take women through? That's how I feel anyway. I mean, you and I both see the red thread. That it is so interesting when you're talking to someone and they think that the different things they do are totally unrelated. But
yeah,
whenever I hear their story, I just keep seeing these themes come back again. And I think we're too close to our story to do it for ourselves.
yeah,
And that's why it's so useful to have somebody hear your story and look at it through different eyes. I think that's a really valid, useful thing that we do for the women we work with. It's just to give them that mirror and mirror back to them what we see. But the other interesting thing about what you're saying is that, I hate the term personal branding because it turns off so many people. They think, oh, it's all about being fake and being an influencer, and weird associations. I think for me, personal branding is much more about that process of self leadership and exactly what you're talking about, discovering what have I accomplished in my life. When you take people through their stories and you take them through, I have all these exercises around, identifying your strengths, your what makes you different, your personality, your stories from the past, and looking at your progression as a person. That's an incredibly empowering process. Like you're saying, just to look at, wow, look at all the stuff you've done. It is amazing. And even if you never talk about all that, it is exactly what you're saying. It's that something that just gives you power to
mm,
know, wow, I have really done a lot and I have a lot to talk about and I have a lot of value. And why do we as women need that validation? I don't know, but a lot of us do. And that's
mm,
another one of those mindset things, thinking, I don't have anything worthwhile to share. I love what you say about who cares, my story. Why is my story interesting? And I get that a lot from women, especially when you go to the next phase, when they decide, okay, personal branding, I've got to do something, got to promote my company. I want to move up in the ranks, in a company. So I need to make myself more visible. Then I see them, once they've made that conscious decision, they move into what I call the mover phase, where
mhm,
they actually bring their impact into the spotlight and they start showing what their value is. And it's just a simple thing, like instead of just saying you're a project manager, you say, well, I help teams accomplish their objectives without burnout. It could be something so simple. Or I had one woman who was a marketing leader, and she was transitioning into a new role as a transformation expert. She said, "Yeah, I don't know if I can really talk about myself in those terms." And I said, "Well, what is the impact you make?" And she thought about it for a minute. She said, "Yeah, I mean, the companies I work with, if they don't get the transformation right, their business is going to go under." I said, "Well, that's a pretty big impact. If you can actually help a company with their longevity and actually be profitable and successful, that's huge impact." But it's hard for them to see that. I wonder, when you talk to your women, and you're working on the stories, which kinds of stories do you pick out to highlight their value? How do you do that? I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, I tend to, because I have my framework is called the 10 story connector. So each of the stories have like a category of it. And each story connector basically is a meaningful moment from your journey that is connected to a specific key factor of what you
Yeah,
offer.
yeah,
So one of them is connected to your values. What are your values? What is important to you? And what I tend to do is, okay, let's see where your values has been relevant, and how you can illustrate that those are values not just for the way that you do this work, but in different areas of your life. That can be something that is like recent, or something that is like from your way of being in life and seeing life, like from you were a child, or in a different work environment, in any of your, let's say you have a hobby where this is, there is a moment that you can recall that is like highlighting and illustrating that this is an important value to you. I like to do so, especially when it's unrelated to what you do now, because that's
yeah,
bringing, that is not just I took a quiz and then this is the value that I am highlighting in my business. And then I
yeah,
see
yeah,
for some people can be something like innovation, or something like how for them questioning the status quo is relevant, or like respect. Or I have a client recently that she was all about how to be like empowering others, and be based
yeah,
on how she suffered from the external point of view. So there are so many aspects. I know that sometimes like same values is too vague. So I like for my clients to think about, for people in my audience to think about, okay, how you can bring a specific example that is showing this value in action, and
yeah,
why it's important to you. So I think values is really one of the main aspects that you, it's interesting to highlight and to share, because that's showing who you are in a human level, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
bringing another layer to this multidimensional person that you are, and that's
yeah,
going to help you to bring like that connection and that trust.
yeah.
So yeah.
So, Renee, I want to know, what is your story about value? Give me what are your stories
Yeah,
about your own values?
so this is something I need to say here. I am still working on my own stories, because as you say, we overlooked our
Yeah,
own
yeah,
stories. And I'm
yeah,
still looking for the story that is relevant for my values. Because I have, and I know that this is the case with clients. They have different things that I feel that they are related to their values. For me, for example, respect is something really important, and
yeah,
try to not be like, not judge others, because if
yeah,
especially if I haven't been in their situation. So that's something huge for me. But I'm still looking for which is the specific moment that can highlight that. And
yeah,
this is something that I have been telling others, like, for me, I get help from people like externally to help me, like, this story, do you think, and I'm helping with that, like shaping
yeah,
my own way of sharing my stories.
yeah,
But I don't have all of them, so I still don't have my 10 of them. So it's like sometimes it's like I maybe I need to try to put my like trying to be like two sides of the same, doing my own process.
I know.
uh so yeah, I have some of my story connector, but this is still one that I need to finish. So maybe it's time to, this is a great reminder for me.
No, but what you're saying resonates with me so much because I have such a hard time doing my own thing for myself. It's impossible. You really need people from outside. Then you realize how valuable our work is.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is it sounds like a lot of the stories that you help people with, you try to help them pinpoint a moment when and an emotion that they felt.
Yes.
Is that really important to you to get the emotion in? Because that's really what my third step is that I see. So I'm curious what you think about the emotional aspect in that personal branding.
Yeah, to me that is really important. I always go through the process of identifying which moments are you going to share. You are going to share. Then the second moment is to think about the emotions that you live in that experience and the lessons that you get from that, because
Okay. Yeah.
for me it's really important, not the details, like the personal or private details. You are the one deciding how much you go into the details, but to me it's really important the emotion, because that's what is going to help you to connect with people, no
Yeah.
matter if you have lived that experience exactly as the other person or not. You will connect with the emotion when someone is telling you, I feel overwhelmed. That's for me something that I share. I, for a while, and this connected to the authority, for a while, I was not using the word storytelling
Oh, okay.
because I felt like a lot of pressure on calling myself someone specialized in storytelling.
Oh,
So
interesting.
So because I remember when it started, everyone was telling, yeah, you should use storytelling in your business and you should use vulnerability. And I felt a lot of pressure on, okay, how I'm going to do that? I don't have an epic story. I am a really private person. So I don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
open to certain moments in my journey. I don't want to
Yeah.
share those. So and then working with clients, I see, okay, you can still share moments that are important and you want to share them in a way that you are not sharing the private parts. You are just
Yeah.
sharing the
Yeah.
emotions, and focusing on the emotion side is something that will resonate. And this idea of feeling overwhelmed because you feel you don't have an epic
Yeah.
story, that's something that a lot of people that I work with, they feel in that same boat. I usually have like two groups of people. Sometimes they have both of the ideas. One is this, that feeling
Yeah.
overwhelmed because I don't have an epic story. The other type is feeling overwhelmed because they feel they have so many stories, they have done so many things, they don't know which one to choose to
Yeah.
be like making sense of that. So even if you are in one or the other, that feeling of overwhelmed, because yeah, I know that I use if I use my story, it's going to help my business, but how I do it in a way that makes sense, is relevant, is so back to this idea of clarity and strategy. I feel those are like when you have the
Yeah.
clarity
Yeah.
and you do with an intention, you will get confidence because you know which stories are you sharing, why, and when to use each of them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always, that's why I think it's so interesting. We both focus on the strategic aspect because I really don't think you can start a personal brand until you've thought about, who is your business for.
Yeah.
And I think we both probably move our clients through a decision tree in a way to narrow their focus, to make it clear for themselves. Because what I notice with a lot of women is, especially entrepreneurs, the one that I work with, they always think, oh, I'm going to, my services are going to appeal to everyone because I want to have as broad a service base as I can so I have as much chance to earn money. And what I always tell them is this is how I work anyway. I'm very much about pick the people that you want to work with. Pick the
Mm.
people that give you energy or that you think you can really have a contribution to, because those are the ones that are going to pull you in the right direction. And that helps you make decisions. And I don't know how you help them make strategic decisions to get them in there. Do you do that same sort of funneling process with people?
Yeah, usually in the process of working in someone's personal brand story, the first step will be getting clear in what is the audience
Yeah.
and what is the offering, that the like what is their value proposition. Those are like, and then we will see which stories to highlight based on those, because
Yeah.
it's like it's not the same. You are sharing your story for one audience or a different one. So that's something that I have in mind always when I work with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to go to that third phase. Can you tell us a bit more
Yes,
about
yes.
that third?
So I know I got sidetracked.
No, no, it's okay.
So no, but that was what I was interested in is what you said about values. Because when I started doing this personal branding with Sophia Gruner, my wonderful colleague from No Blah Blah, that's my company I work for, which I probably forgot to mention. We did developed a whole workshop for women, and it was based on a book by Sally Helgeson, who is called How Women Rise. And it was all about the mindset barriers that keep them back from progressing in their career. And one of the exercises that we do in our workshops, and I still do this is like the basis of my coaching now, and it's all about being magnetic.
Mm,
Is we do the why exercise. You know, what is your purpose? And if I ask women that, and they're, you have to have a certain comfort level. So we don't do it as the first exercise, but it's always about, what is it that motivates you in your business? Why? What is your purpose? And some people don't have a great big purpose. They don't want to change the world. I do. I would love to change the world. But okay, not all of us have that. But everybody has something they believe in and something they're committed to. And even if it's just about why do you love your job? What is it about your job that just makes you happy? Somebody has something that when they start talking about it, they're just going to light up.
mm,
And when I talk about women's empowerment, I hope my passion comes through because I think women are so important in our world and our voices deserve to be heard. That's what my whole business is about. And when we did that exercise in our first workshop, it was amazing. We had these women, we were all crying and laughing, and because you immediately could feel, and that's why I was talking about the emotion, you felt that this is a genuine person and this is their conviction. And that's, for me, is the heart of your power in personal branding, is when you get in touch with whatever it is you feel strongly about, whether it's a value or a goal that you have for your business, or a goal you have for your customers. Anything that really lights you up, people feel that. And that's where the power comes from personal branding, I believe. And that's why I call that the magnetic stage, because all of us have this sort of magnetic core of things we believe in, experiences that have shaped our lives, that have been good or bad or whatever, but they've left a deep impression in us. And when we talk about that stuff, and you can do it in a business setting, there's different levels that, like you say, you don't have to, talk about everything, you make choices, but when you get in touch with that energy, it just makes such a difference. And that really is what I love about the third level, because when women get into that, and that you have to be willing to be vulnerable, which is again a mindset barrier. Nobody wants to be vulnerable, but if you can find that balance for yourself and incorporate that, it gives you amazing power, I think,
mm.
to attract
Yeah.
other people, to connect with other people, to build trust with people. That's a
Mm.
really essential thing.
Yeah, I believe that's huge, and I love what you mentioned about this, like lighting up, because you can see that, and I love when in a process I am just asking them different questions and see like they are telling, and at some point they are like really going into something
Yeah,
that is really important, and it's like
yeah,
they, and that's why also I share with them these recordings, because I always tell them like, here you can just keep a clip and you can see how you are just like lighting up and talking about why this is important to you, the work that you do, and how it's like helping you in different ways. And this one of my main ideas that I always like to highlight is like how your story is relevant and is worth telling, and no matter who you are,
yeah,
your story is relevant and worth telling. And this something that I always like to repeat to people, and to make them see how, yeah, it makes sense. And sometimes with connecting to this idea of the mindset blocks is like, for example, if you are like somehow resistant to visibility, or having this fear of someone else judging you, sometimes you are there, you are thinking, maybe if it's, let's say, content creation, you're maybe thinking about your family and friends or your peers, but you are not really focusing on the people that you want to have, because when you think about them, it's like, yeah, it makes sense for me to share that, even if I feel a bit conscious about that, or like people that I know in my uh, other environment will think like, okay, look at her telling this, all these things that we have in our minds, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when you focus on why, and back to the idea of this why, what is important to you, why,
Yeah.
what is the reason you do that, that's going to help. And yeah, so I would love for you to share with us, do you have a specific experience with someone that you have this like they light up talking about something specific, something that comes to mind?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. One of our first workshops, we had a woman in there who she was really wrestling with what her next job was going to be. She was a team leader. And she said, yeah, because I don't have the experience to do that next job. And she said, what I really love is working with teams. I just love it. I love to encourage people to get their full potential out of themselves. And I said, oh, so you're basically a leader. That's your expertise. And it was like a light bulb went on in her head. She said, yes, that's what I love. It's not about the technical subject. It's about the people. It's about the team building. And she said, I love leading people. I said, well, that's what you should do then.
Yeah.
And since that workshop, she has just gone on to be the greatest leader. She has just moved up. It's like she just switched and realized where to pour her energy in and where to focus, and she just had the confidence in it. And then now
Mm.
she speaks from such authority, and it's just amazing to see that. I mean, what could be more wonderful to do for a living? I can't imagine anything.
Yeah, and this like when you see that, how like allowing yourself to have this like that's so powerful, and when you see that, it's like this. And even for ourselves, I don't know your own experience, but for me, going back to this idea of how the word storytelling and putting myself into that like expertise or specialization was a bit like challenging. And at some point, having conversation with other professionals on that is like, yeah, I have been loving stories since I remember when I learned to read. I was so excited. I remember the first time that they opened the library, a public library in my neighborhood. I love that, and I was excited there. All these stories that I will have the opportunity to read and learn about. And now working with clients, I feel like I am so grateful, because I feel that, wow, what a lack to be working with someone, just helping them to figure it out, good stories to share in a way that makes sense for them, feel good for them, and at the same time is helping their business to
Yeah,
go and help and make the impact that they want to do. So
yeah,
I feel like this is a so beautiful work to do.
yeah,
And it's like I feel just lucky here listening genuinely. And when I see pictures from my the recording, I see myself like this, like just lighting as a child, being told a story, going a fairy story or something. So yeah, that's like really something to see how, and that process of, okay, yeah, your story makes sense to share, because that will help people to understand your context, what has been the steps to bring to this point, what is important to you, and why for you is important to do that specific work, helping that specific group of people.
yeah. No, I agree with you 100% because I think everybody's story is important, but it's so easy to get in your head like, oh yeah, that I don't have anything fantastic to say. It's not like, something dramatic and big happened to me. But I don't think what people don't realize is the fact that you share your individual story. That's what makes you different
Yeah.
because you're from a different country than I am. You've had completely different experiences. You've had a different career path. You have a different personality. All of that makes you unique. That's the personal and personal branding, which people just forget. They think personal branding is, I guess, just learning some fake image of yourself to project out to
Mm,
the world. That's not what it's about for me anyway. It's about digging deep, getting those nuggets, exactly what you do in your work, Reme, is that, you pull out all of that gold dust that just is so important for people to learn about you and to learn to connect with you. And that's what, just seeing some of your past podcasts, some of your guests, I thought, oh, I really want to connect with that person. She just has exactly the same commitment that I have, the same purpose. And that's what it's about, I think. It's
yeah.
just sharing your story, and women's voices deserve to be heard.
Yes.
So I hope we can both keep doing that for a very, very long
Yeah, and
time.
it's so beautiful to see, yeah, especially women and people that has been underrepresented. Like, yeah, owning your space, owning your voice, and sharing what you have to share, which is really important. That we have the variety of ways of thinking and seeing the world, and it's like, yeah, we are in a diverse world, and this is one of the things that I love about working with people from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, how, going back to the idea of the emotions, no matter what there are like some universal emotions that are common to everyone and you can relate. And that's something that when you are reading a book, when you are uh, watching a movie, you have that feeling, that connection. And the same happen when you are listening to someone story, personal brand story, you are connecting with
Yeah,
them in the
yeah,
human level. So that I feel that's why it's so powerful to use the story, your
yeah,
personal brand story, as an asset in your business to amplify your impact.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I don't know if we haven't covered a lot of things because we can keep talking for a long time. I can feel that already. Uh, but something that maybe we haven't mentioned and you would like to highlight before we finish this conversation.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is to add to what you're saying is I really think that what is brilliant about what you do is you really give people a structure that's easy to apply immediately, and they don't, then you help them with that overwhelm, that feeling of overwhelm that they can immediately apply. And I guess my piece would be then help, and I know you do this as well, is to look at the mindset that's holding people back and to try and give them some tools, to try and overcome that. Because once you bring those two together, the story will get told that needs to be told. So
Mm.
super important.
Yeah, and I feel like this the first step for this mindset barrier is like, and I that's why I love this framework that you are using to like the different stages, because it's a process, it's an
Yeah,
evolution, and it's not that
definitely.
you are going to, okay, I this done and now I don't have any more mindset.
No.
We wish that is not the case. Uh, so yeah, it's lovely to even by sharing how is the process, know that yeah, it's going to be an evolution and it's okay, you are going to be like moving through different phases, and that's going to help you to grow in different
Yeah,
levels, so that's
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and then the final thought is I always ask to like 1 to 3 words to summarize the connection between personal brand story and mindset barriers. How will you describe that connection with a few words?
I would say clarity, because once you know where you're going, then you're going to act. Once you act, you get confidence. That's the second word. And that helps you overcome your barriers. And the third one is connection. And that's exactly what the intersection is between stories and mindset.
Love that. For me, I would say self awareness, because both of the process, like the personal brand story and overcoming the barriers, is a process of
Yeah.
being aware of yourself and being aware of your own evolution as well, and how that is going to help you to overcome both of those, like having clarity on which stories to share and having clarity on how you can overcome
Yeah.
these for the
Oh, I
bigger
like that.
purpose, yeah, that you have.
That's nice. That's nice. I like that. That's good.
Nice. So thank you so much. I feel that we can keep talking about this, and maybe we will have a second of these chats in the future. Yeah, thank you for your insights, for sharing with us your framework and sharing your experience. Has been lovely. And yeah, so if people are interested about where they can find you and the work that you do and how you support them, the links are around us. And if they have any question or something that they would like to comment about this conversation, feel free to reach out. I would love for people to just ask any question or just comment if they have any thoughts about something that we have shared.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Remy. It was great. Great talking to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and for everyone that is watching live or replay, thank you for being here once again. And if you have any suggestion of a different topic that will be interesting for you to talk about the intersection between personal brand story and some topic that maybe haven't covered, feel free to also mention that. I am really curious about what other topics people are interested to see. And until now, yeah, thank you so much.